It's a huge factor for your own perception of reality, meeting a different being.
The whole planet deserves to know the truth. You may be one of the few people who might be able to help us understand.
Species are brought together on a table and have diplomatic conversations
This
with
is
each other.
happening?
This is happening.
Where? Give an example. What happened with you?
This great being enters the room. It's a strong, crisp frequency that your body reacts to.
It's happening. It's happening behind the scenes. I mean, Tim, what is the true history of Earth?
Steve Colburn back with us. He is a chemist, materials scientist, 20-plus years experience in chemistry and nanotechnology. Currently works in the area of carbon nanotubes with his company, Neutron Star Nanotechnology. Steve has analyzed several alleged alien implants in recent years, worked with Dr. Roger Leir, the late. Steve's research discovered that these objects contain carbon nanotubes and other nanostructures, indicating that they were sophisticated nano devices made by a level of nanotechnology far beyond that of current mainstream earthly science. Think about that. Steve was the first researcher outside the government to make this incredible discovery. Steve, welcome back. How have you been?
I've been great, George.
Tell us a little bit. You had an implant removed by Dr. Roger Leir, didn't you?
Yeah, I was patient 15 in his implant removal project. The aliens put an implant in my left second toe, and he removed it about 7 months later.
How old were you when you think they might have done this?
That was back in 2008. I was 48 years old.
What was the episode? How did this happen that you might recall?
My wife had just had given birth to our daughter a couple of months before, and she was over at her parents' house. Her mom was helping out with the baby, and I stopped over at our house to water the plants and do a few things, and got tired, told him I was going to spend the night over there, and I heard some rustling in the backyard and went out in the backyard and found two enormous raccoons in our avocado tree eating avocados, and these were big. I mean, they were it just astonished me, the size of the things. One was about 70 pounds, like the size of a husky dog, something like that, and the other one was somewhat smaller, maybe 50 pounds, and I didn't even know they got that big. And I fed the animals some cat food and observed them for a while, and then got tired and went to bed. And we'd had a lot of strange activity in the house in the weeks prior to that. And I woke up about 8 o'clock the next morning, and the sides of my head were kind of sore, and I had a weird stinging pain in my left second toe. Jeez. And I knew that the aliens I just had a strong gut feeling that the aliens had been there in the middle of the night, and then I had 2 more implants.
What do you think they wanted with you, Stephen?
I think they're putting in an implant to monitor my bodily parameters. I think that the implant was to monitor body temperature, blood oxygenation, things like that.
Were they interested in what you were working on?
Perhaps. I'm not really sure. I know that they want my help for installing equipment and helping with medical procedures and things like that. I remembered a lot of it under hypnotic regression later on.
What did our friend Dr. Leir say about this?
Well, he didn't believe me at first. He thought that I was some crank, and but he gave me a prescription to get the toe X-rayed, and told him to give a copy of the film to the patient, and they gave me the copy of the film after I got it X-rayed, and I knew that I was going to see something holding it up to the light, but when I did, it was a life-changing event. Like I tell everybody, it's one thing to strongly suspect that something like this is going on with you. It's quite another matter to have proof and to know for sure.
That's right.
and it looked like a bent piece of wire on the X-ray. It looked smaller on the X-ray than it was when it was removed.
Fascinating. Now, how did you get involved in studying Mars?
I've just been interested in Mars for a long time, and I thought it really ties into the alien phenomenon because there's evidence of past civilization there, and it's the most Earth-like planet in the solar system.
Tell us the kind of work you've been doing about Mars, Steve.
There's been a huge cover-up going on in Mars since the 1950s, apparently. The ground-based astronomers, Percival Lowell and V.C. Slifer and a couple others, knew that there was evidence of past civilization and plant life, at least. And there's plant life that varies with the seasons. You can see that in the photographs from the Hubble Space Telescope and the rovers and the various rovers and orbiters that have been sent to Mars.
I saw a picture on Mars once that looked like a bunch of trees. You remember that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got the picture here. There's definitely trees in the South Polar region because that's the region with the most water during the summer in that hemisphere. And some of those trees are like half a kilometer across. They look like giant banyan trees.
Now, is it just vegetation life that's on Mars, in your opinion?
No, there's apparently at least simple animal life. There's been pictures of what look like insects from the rovers, and one of a rat-like creature. It certainly looked that way anyway.
Or a little reptile or something.
Yeah, and a reptile. And there have been photographs of what looked like a statue head or a space helmet. Or perhaps a skull. It's not for sure what it is, but it's definitely either humanoid remains or something, some artifact.
Chinese rover found some water on the moon. What do you think about Mars, which was laden with water at one time, wasn't it?
Yeah, there used to be a lot more water on Mars. There's still a fair amount, not as much as on Earth, but there's mud. The landing site of I believe it was the Spirit rover, was quite muddy, and NASA invented a lot of excuses as to why that's not mud and liquid water can't exist on Mars. But I think most people know mud when they see it. And the truth is that the Viking landers detected 100% humidity on Mars. So even if they're right and the pressure's too low for liquid water to exist ordinarily, where is it going to go at 100% humidity? It'll evaporate, and then more will come in from the air. So
sure.
It's not going. No liquid is going anywhere if the atmosphere is saturated with its vapor. And also, if water has a lot of dissolved salts, the vapor pressure is lowered and the boiling point's elevated. So,
are there clouds in Mars?
Yeah, there's quite a few clouds, and the Mars Polar Lander actually saw it snow there at one point.
Really?
They didn't make a big deal about that, but I saw the films or the pictures. What's
the atmosphere like, Steve?
According to NASA, it's 6 to 9 millibars, which is about 1/100th as dense as Earth's. That I kind of have an issue with. The ground-based astronomers thought it was more like a tenth as dense as Earth. It's much thinner than Earth's in any event. The atmospheric composition is mostly CO2, about 95% CO2, maybe 3% nitrogen, 1.6% argon, 0.13% oxygen, 0.03% water vapor, and a trace of neon. In the case of the oxygen, even if NASA is right that the oxygen level is only 0.13%, even that level of oxygen would probably require plant life to maintain because oxygen is such a reactive gas.
What about the canals again that the Lowell was able to see? What are they?
Well, I saw them for myself during the close opposition of 2003 through an 8-inch telescope. I didn't believe in all this at the time, and I was looking at Mars through the telescope at high magnification, and I noticed that whenever looking at a planet through a telescope is like looking through something through water or a swimming pool. every once in a while the surface will get calm, and then you can see things better. And it's kind of like that with the atmosphere. Every couple of minutes, the atmosphere clears up for a few seconds, and when that happened, I was seeing lions on Mars, and I'm going like, holy, you know what? These things are real. They've been acting like Percival Lowell was a lunatic for believing in that. He's not the only one that saw him, though.
Can they still be seen there?
What's that?
Can they still be seen there?
Oh yeah. There's pictures from orbit that show them pretty clearly. There's actually water seepages into the canals, or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, there's large ditches or canal or channels all over the planet that have water seepage into them that may have been used as an irrigation system at one time by the inhabitants.
What kind of other signs of past civilizations might have been present on Mars? And what do you think Mars might have been like millions of years ago?
Millions of years ago, Mars was wetter, and there were shallow oceans, and there was probably more plant life and probably more animal life as well. As far as evidence of past civilization, there's shapes and pictures in the ground, pyramids, statues like the face on Mars. That's the probability of the face on Mars in the Cydonia region being just a trick of light and shadow, like NASA says, is vanishingly small. The some members of the Viking imaging team came to that conclusion a long time ago, as did Dr. Tom Van Flandern, former head of the Naval Observatory.
He was one of the good ones, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was a great guy.
But why is NASA so reluctant, Steve, to tell us about this stuff?
Well, I think the reason is because there's been the UFO controversy for years, since the end of World War II, at least. And I think that if they admitted that there's even if they admitted that there's plant life or simple organisms on the planet right next door, that would make the whole alien UFO thing much more likely in the public mind. Absolutely.
In terms of Mars, do you think it was once laden with a population?
Yeah. There's some evidence that, particularly from the Martian or the Soviet probe Phobos 1, that there might still be population there. They came up with an infrared photograph that showed what looked like an underground city, and it's at a higher temperature than the surroundings, so it's probably currently inhabited. I think that it's currently inhabited at a very low population density, is my opinion.
Where'd the rest of the inhabitants go? All underground, or did they come here?
They probably died off. Mars was once a moon of the original Planet 4 in that orbit, according to Tom Van Flandern.
The one that blew up and became the asteroid belt?
Yeah, Planet 4 exploded millions of years ago, and that's why one side of Mars is heavily cratered and the other side is relatively smooth. The heavily cratered side was the one facing the explosion.
As a scientist, what do your peers and colleagues say about this?
Well, I'm not a mainstream scientist. I go where the data takes me, and I don't just blindly believe what's in the textbooks. And I take my lead from people, from maverick scientists like Dr. Van Flandern, and I just read what's out there and look at the evidence. In this case, photographs from Mars that have been taken recently, and just form my own conclusions.
And in your best guess, what's going on Mars right now?
Well, I think like I say, there's some plant life and lichens on the rocks and bushes in areas with high water, photosynthetic bacteria. You can see a layer of what looks like photosynthetic bacteria, blue-green algae, it's also known as, in some areas on the rover photographs.
These discoveries would be fantastic, Steve, wouldn't they, to go public with?
Yeah. Well, I wrote a report on Mars back in 2003 after seeing the canals for myself and reading up on all this and looking at the NASA data. And I sent you a copy. There's a lot of photographs there. And one thing that is really fiction that they show the public a lot is this total rented out sky version of Mars. The sky is actually blue or gray, and it looks more like Arizona than what they show on the press release photos of Mars. It's like they turned the red way up, probably to hide all the green on the rocks.
It is fascinating, to be sure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely really something.
Does any of this shock you?
Oh yeah, it shocked the heck out of me. I was amazed that they were distorting the facts to this extent. I've been amazed about a lot of things like that in looking into space and the UFO thing in general.
Do you think Mars is the only planet outside of Earth in our solar system that might have been inhabited?
I'm not sure. There seems to be a cover-up going on about Venus, too. I'm not sure I believe the government's assertions that the surface is 900 degrees Fahrenheit and that the surface pressures are 1,500 psi. That just seems a little bit of a stretch to me. And I find it strange that there have been I think over a dozen spacecraft sent to Venus over the last few decades, but there's very little data available about Venus that's been sent to the public. But I don't know what to believe on Venus. So people back in the 50s used to think it was some sort of a swamp planet, but the jury's still out on that as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think our Mars rovers were able to capture some of these pictures and strange things, and NASA just never gave them to us?
They didn't give some of them to us, but on other areas, they're just putting out thousands of photographs, and you have to wade through all the mundane photographs to get to the good stuff. And I think part of the reason that there were no Mars missions between 1976 when Viking landed and the next mission in the mid-'90s was because they wanted to wait until image tampering computer technology had caught up sufficiently so that they could
airbrush things out
any signs of life or civilization.
What do you think will happen when we send astronauts up there?
I think this is all going to come to light. I think that they're going to have to admit it to the public. And a NASA scientist that I talked to, that was introduced to me by Whitley Strieber, actually said during an argument that we had over Mars and private aerospace efforts that they had an agenda. NASA has an agenda to release this stuff very slowly to the public. He got so upset when I praised private aerospace efforts that I think he said some things he shouldn't have said. Yeah, or wasn't supposed to say.
When they planted, when your implant was taken out finally by Dr. Lear, what did he do with it? Do you know?
Yeah, he kept part of it, and he gave part of it to me to analyze with the instruments I had at work at the time. And
that's what's got the carbon nanotechnology in it?
Yeah, there were definitely carbon nanotubes in it. Looked like carbon nanotube electronics.
Which we didn't know how to do at that time, did we?
No, they've been talking about doing it, and they've been trying to do it, but it's the technology is in its infancy here in civilian science, at least, and it's probably old technology to the aliens.
Let's talk a little bit about alien abductions, if we can, and implants. Sure. What is your overall thought about that phenomena?
Well, I'm involved with it, and
in a big way.
Yeah, I have implants. I have other implants that haven't been removed, and I remember quite a bit under both consciously and under hypnosis, and it's really strange compared to what we're taught. But yeah, they're here and they're doing a job down here, and they are getting people like me to help them.
How many implants do you still have?
That
you know of.
I have one above each ear that sets off a metal detector. Both of them set off a metal detector big time. And I think I've one in the back of my neck and the T3 vertebrae. That's pretty common with experiencers.
Why do they have so many in you? Does each one do something different?
Yes, that's correct. The one on the back of the neck appears to be, according to abductee reports, something that enables the aliens to like turn you off if you misbehave or paralyze you.
Jeez.
And there's a brain implant too that they implant in what I call Class 2 experiencers that are abducted frequently by the aliens and are part of the alien program. That one enables them to see and hear what you're seeing and hearing in real time.
I assume you've been abducted if you have these many implants in your system.
Yeah, I remembered under regression that I'd been abducted hundreds of times, pretty much from day one. It's a lineage thing, and people like me are abducted frequently because they want help with their agenda. There's not enough aliens down here to do what they need to do.
Do you know what star system they're coming from?
Yeah, a couple of them. They're coming from multiple star systems. The Greys that do most of the abductions are an alliance of seven similar species, and two of their star systems are Zeta Reticuli 4 is one of their planets, and 61 Ursa Majoris 3, and there's another planet that's their capital in the direction of the constellation Orion, but the exact location is secret.
I think the late Stanton Friedman talked a lot about Zeta Reticuli, didn't he?
Yeah. There's definitely been a lot of reports from experiencers that they come from Zeta Reticuli. I think Betty and Barney Hill were the first one.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a sun-like star and has planets. So,
is everyone who's abducted, Steve, given an implant?
Not everyone. There's three classes of experiencers. There's people that are never returned. They call them Class 0. And Class 1 people are people that are abducted maybe a few times in their life, and they just use them to collect samples of DNA, blood, bone marrow, skin, stuff like that for genetic experimentation. And then there's Class 2 experiencers that are they do all that, plus they implant them and train them, and they become part of the alien agenda or part of the alien workforce.
Are the implants constantly feeding information back to them?
I don't know if it's constant. From Dr. Lear and I's research indicated that they're transmitting perhaps 10% of the time. They sometimes give off radio signals, and I noticed that the implants above my ears started transmitting one time when I was doing a Japanese TV show on alien abduction.
Whitley Strieber has one above his ear, too.
Yeah, he has got a moving one. There's stationary ones and moving ones.
Yeah, they can't get it.
I don't have any moving ones to my knowledge. The one in his ear is a moving one. He says it hurts like anything when it moves.
How big are they, Steve?
They're pretty tiny. The ones above my ears I was talking about are spheres about maybe a millimeter in diameter.
Like a grain of rice?
My toe was about 4 millimeters long and about half a millimeter in diameter. And the brain implants are spheres about maybe 3 millimeters in diameter.
Has anybody in your immediate family gone through the same thing, or just you?
I have reason to believe that my sister is an experiencer, and I think my parents were involved based on their statements. Usually everybody in the family is involved with this stuff. It's a lineage thing, and all my children are involved.
Do they all know what's going on?
I think more or less. I mean, I've talked about this enough to them where they know my take on it, and I think they remember more than they're saying, but they're not comfortable talking about it.
How widespread do you think this is, the abductions and the implants?
Well, Dr. Lear and I thought that perhaps 3% of the general public in the United States had been taken at one time or another, and I have reason to believe that about 0.1% or about 1 in 1,000 people are Class 2 experiencers like myself.
That's a large number.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. It's statistically a small amount, but it translates into a lot of people.
Do the implants hurt?
Yeah, it hurt when they put it in. There was a weird stinging pain at first, and then that went away pretty fast. And there were 2 puncture marks on the bottom of my toe that lit up bright green under UV light.
Were you aware of the implants at that time, that they were going in your body?
Yeah, I remembered that, or had a feeling that they'd been there in the middle of the night, and that I had 2 more implants, and that turned out to be true. I mean, I have evidence of that, so I don't discount any gut feelings at this point because of that.
Steve, tell us about the nanotechnology.
But I remembered how they did it during regression later on with Yvonne Smith. That's another story.
Yeah, she's been on the program before.
Yeah.
This nanotechnology that apparently is used for the implants. Tell me about that.
Well, the structure of the implant in my toe was, I think, a kind of a typical one as implants go. Nerve cells connect to the device, and they connect to a tough, dark gray membrane that surrounds the device that I think is manufactured by enzymes on the surface from blood plasma. It's a real tough proteinaceous membrane, and there were large diameter in terms of microtechnology anyway, large diameter carbon nanotube ropes connecting that membrane to the device itself. And the device itself had a layer of what looked like mother of pearl or bone on the surface. It was high in silicon and calcium and carbon and phosphorus.
What powers it up, Steve?
And then there's metal below that. The metal was meteoric iron, and then there's a network of carbon nanotube electronics inside the metal. As far as what powers it up, we think that it's vacuum energy, energy from the quantum vacuum. That's what one of our coworkers or colleagues in the research thought.
Has anybody replaced Dr. Lear in terms of surgical removals of implants? I haven't found the replacement yet. Have you?
No, nobody's doing removals on a regular basis, to my knowledge. There's a doctor in Alaska whose name escapes me at the moment that has done a couple of removals, but I don't know if he's doing that in an ongoing manner.
The materials used for the implants, do you think they come from their planet or from ours?
Yeah, the metal definitely comes from off-planet. The metal is meteoric iron. The metal in my implant was meteoric iron, probably from a class of meteorites called hexahedrites, low nickel, nickel iron asteroids. And we have some evidence from isotopic studies that indicate that the material might have not only come from off Earth, but from a different part of the galaxy. That's preliminary, but that's what we have so far.
What do you think the abduction agenda is, Stephen?
Well, they seem to be here to exploit the resources of the Earth and the Moon for elements that are rare where they come from, and like cobalt, gold, uranium and thorium, titanium, aerospace metals, niobium, things like that.
Well, why abduct humans for that?
I'm sorry?
Why abduct humans for that?
Well, they want human DNA. They're involved in a massive hybridization program. They're making hybrids of humans and themselves.
Are they dying out as a population?
I would say yes. They've genetically modified themselves so much that they're having issues, and they need an infusion of fresh DNA. And they also eliminated emotions in most of their species long ago to, in my opinion, maximize their intellect. And they discovered that was a mistake. It's an evolutionary dead end, and so they need at least some members of their society that have emotions now.
Is their program of abductions working for them?
You mean, do they have a protocol?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
How so?
Well, when they abduct people, they abduct them from bloodlines they're interested in, and they often genetically modify the fetus they're interested in at an early stage of development, and then give the person a brain implant at about age 5 generally, and they do training. They train them in various aspects of how to work for them. In my case, it's how to installing equipment and helping with medical procedures.
Is there any type of human that is able to escape these things?
No, I'm afraid not. They're far too powerful to fight. They're natural telepaths, and they can download thoughts from information from your brain and place thoughts there and make you do whatever they want to do if they're within a short range of you. And through the implants, they can actually implant suggestions to you from very long ranges that are hard to ignore because the subject almost always thinks it's their idea.
Truly remarkable, Steve, how that happens and works. And are you glad this has happened to you?
That's a hard one to answer. I mean, I don't know what I don't know what I would have been like if I hadn't been subjected to this. So it's hard to really give a definitive answer. But in general, yeah, I guess so. It's not your usual boring life. But
no, far from it.
About it is that it makes it hard to relate to people down here. I think that their genetic modification kind of, I don't know, just makes it hard to relate to normal people. I relate to other abductees much more strongly than I relate to regular people. To
the best of your knowledge, they're not out to hurt humans, are they?
No, they're waiting until we hurt ourselves. They're planning on cleaning up the mess after we finally destroy ourselves or do something that greatly reduces the population.
How often are you taken or visited?
Right now, it's about once or twice a month, I'd say.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I can tell by these alien dyes left behind. They leave behind indelible dyes on the body, usually after an abduction, and they take up to 6 weeks to wear off. The skin has to wear off to get rid of this dye. And there are several types. There's yellow-green that's from their skin, and there's a blue dye and an orange dye. And I'm not sure what those do. I think the blue dye has something to do with medical procedures. Yeah, it's about that right now. And back when I had a lot of activity, when they put the implant in, it was probably at least twice a week. They had a big operation of some kind going on at that time.
It's pretty dramatic. And their full intent is to do what?
Like I say, they want to utilize the resources of the system, harvest DNA, create hybrids.
Do you think the hybrid program is the big reason for doing all of this?
Yeah, it's probably the main reason for the abduction program, at least. The main reason they're here might be to utilize the resources.
Is their program successful?
Yeah, I'd say so. They now have hybrids that can pass for human, and a lot of them are living among us. I remembered under regression helping them establish hybrids in the country. They had an underground base near Las Vegas that they were dispatching hybrids from. They were giving them cars and money and maps and directions to apartments and everything they might need, and sending them out to live in this country.
Can you be hurt by this, Stephen? These systems in your body?
I don't think so. I think they're pretty much compatible with the human body. They could hurt you through them if they wanted to. I know they can trigger. I have a rare condition called cluster headaches, and it's a common
like migraines
condition. Yeah, they're intense, excruciating migraines, and it's a common condition among abductees, but it's rare in the general population. And I know they can trigger those through the implants if they want. Dr. Lear and I were going to go investigate another abductee's house near San Diego one time, and we were about to leave, and she called and said that she had a cluster migraine that just came on.
Steve, what kind of technology do these implants possess? Are we at a point now where we can do the same thing?
I'm not sure. I think that it's possible that the military behind closed doors or the military industrial complex has some of the same technology, but it's well beyond civilian technology at this point. I'm quite sure of that.
Do you remember being taken aboard a craft?
Oh, yeah, several times. I remembered consciously a couple of times and under regressive hypnosis several other times.
Were there other people up there with you?
Yeah. I remember one of the first regressions I had. I remember that I was on board a very large UFO, and there were hundreds of people that they had just abducted from the LA area. They abducted me from a highway in the desert, Highway 40, in 1989, and I remembered under regression that they had a huge room with hundreds of people on cots that they were doing medical procedures and sample removal from. It's kind of a disturbing memory, actually.
How did you stumble across Dr. Roger Lear?
Well, it was a synchronicity or by design, probably by design, but I worked only a few blocks from where he worked in Camarillo, California.
Yeah.
And I'd followed his research for a long time and thought it would be neat to be involved in it. And then when they put the implant in my toe, I had a perfect opportunity to go see him.
I went to see him perform a surgery on a lady's cheek in her face.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And the thing was just moving all over the place. I'm not sure he was ever able to get it.
Did it look like it was moving in response to a magnetic field on the instrument he was using to take it out?
Yes,
or was it moving on its own?
It was moving on its own, but to try to get away from him. It's like it had a brain.
That Whitley has. They're definitely here. They can definitely reproduce with normal humans. In fact, the later stages of the breeding program, they were mating abductees with hybrids to fine-tune what they wanted. It's at that stage, it's easier to do that than genetic engineering.
And what
genetic engineering is too coarse of a tool, so to speak.
And what about the government? Do they have a list of abductees? Do they keep track of you?
Absolutely. The aliens have not given them the entire list, reportedly, but that report that the caller mentioned is true. I mean, they have a treaty with the aliens, and the treaty states that the government will be given alien technology in exchange for allowing them to abduct our people. And the only requirement was that the aliens give them a list of people that they're abducting.
Before you came on the program, one of my introduction stories right before you had to do with a study, a governmental study, that claims that it's very possible that there are ET craft in our atmosphere and above our planet sending little probes all over the place. What do you think of that?
Oh, yeah, that report is definitely true also. I've seen a few. They have... the probes are spherical or various sizes. They have them down to the size of a marble and up to the size of a basketball, or there may even be one larger size than that. And they have a network of these probes all over the planet, maybe all over the solar system, relaying data back to them. Well, I mean, it's not subject to your approval. I mean, if they want you, they're going to have your services. I mean,
You couldn't reject them.
I couldn't get out of this if I wanted to, and I don't want to at this point. It's been going on too long. I mean, they're a part of my life.
So you're glad it's happening to you?
I don't know if I'm glad, but it's like better the devil you know than the devil you don't. I mean, I would rather just keep on going the way I'm going than try to change it at this late date.
Did they ever threaten you in any way?
Yeah, actually, when I was a kid, I tried to fight back, and I remember trying to fight back and seriously injured one of them, and they threatened me at that point.
Oh, gee, what'd you do to them? Like punch him out or something?
Yeah, I think so, something like that. They're pretty fragile too. Well, I've learned the hard way that highly religious people are often not too friendly to me, but or abductees in general. But and it's interesting that a lot of experiencers are also survivalist type of people and very very conservative in mindset. I wouldn't have thought that otherwise, but that's been my experience.
What about the fallen angel portion of this?
I don't think that they disappear if you use the name of Jesus, and I don't think they're fallen angels. I think they're what they appear to be. They're advanced aliens coming from several solar systems within 100 light years of here, and they're neither extremely good space brothers that are out to help us, neither are they scum-sucking evil. They're here with a job to do, and they want to save the planet and save the planet from us, pretty much, and also utilize resources that they need.
The 10-foot praying mantis.
I think they're a class of gray. I think they're the head class of grays. The grays are kind of a caste species. There's workers and what I call scientist engineers guys, and then the Mantis class, and the Mantis class are the rulers, and the scientist engineer guys are the Mantis are pretty tall, like up to 7 feet tall a lot of times, or maybe taller with some species of grays, and the scientist engineer guys are about 4.5 to 5.5 feet tall, and then the workers are much smaller, 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall, and there seems to be a division based on size, and the larger ones are more intelligent and have more autonomy and more individuality. But the Mantises, I don't think, are a separate race. They're the ruling class of the gray species.
Are the ETs ever keeping humans and not returning them?
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they take only people that they think are not valuable, homeless people and people that are tearing up the rainforest, and third world people, and in this country, homeless people that nobody will miss.
Stephen, hundreds of thousands of humans disappear from this planet every year. They're just gone, vanished, poof. Might they be taken?
Yes. Yes, part of that is alien abduction, and they're not returned. I call them Class 0 abductees. I think the reptilians do more of that than the grays, though.
What do they do with all these humans? I mean, you mentioned some things earlier.
The reptilians actually eat people, and the grays, I think, may be taking people back to their home planet to act as laborers, and some of them are the ones that they consider not valuable or just taken apart for parts.
Do you imagine how horrible it must be for that human who gets abducted and is never brought back?
Well, I don't think they feel a thing. I don't think that they're aware of what's going on. But yeah, it's kind of disturbing. The Black Knight, they just mentioned to me, as I recall, that it's an ancient satellite that's been up there for thousands of years.
Long time.
They may have put it there when they first started arriving on Earth. They've told the government that they've been coming here for about 10,000 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's some sort of a communication satellite, but I don't know the details. But I've definitely seen pictures of the Black Knight, and I think that Clyde Tombaugh, the discoverer of Pluto, first discovered it during a secret government project that he was working on back in the 50s. He publicly stated that there were moons that were in orbit about 500 miles up, and I think he was detecting that Black Knight satellite and maybe some others like it, and Ray motherships. I know they orbited about that altitude. They're about a mile in diameter, spherical, and they're organic. They're genetically engineered humanoids. They've utilized genetic engineering for so long and used technology in general for so long that it's changed their genetic makeup. They've been exposed to a lot of radiation. They're very resistant to radiation, too, by the way.
Could they be cyborgs? Part human?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. They use implants on themselves too, but they're not really too into straight out robots. Robots are much more expensive, and it's just easier for them to use genetic engineering techniques to grow the beings that they want rather than make them by straight robotics.
How many different types of species have you come across?
I remember coming across 3 different species: the tall whites, the tan grays that are on the cover of Whitley Strieber's book, and the short grays that most people report.
And what about the reptilians?
I don't remember any reptilians, but I think I've probably seen them because I've been obsessed with reptiles all my life.
Stay away from them. But we're going to come back in a moment, Steve, and take final calls with you in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Steve Colburn with us. Mars and aliens coming up. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with Steve Colburn, as we are talking about alien abductions and what has been happening to him. And this continues to happen, Stephen, and there's nothing you can do about it, is there?
No, I don't think there is. Like I said, I'm not sure I'd want to at this late date, even if I could.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been going on all my life.
Stephen, since the religion thing has come up, the spiritual thing has come up, what about the demonic forces that are out there? What do you think?
Well, I believe they exist. I consider myself a Christian, and I definitely believe in demons and angels and heaven and hell and God and the devil and all that. I believe that the Bible is mainly correct.
Let's go to Chris in Milwaukee. Take it away, Chris.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure thing.
First of all, more George Harrison bumper music. Love it. Thank you.
You love that stuff? Great.
Anyways, I'll try to be quick. One question with like 3 points under it. Just my question really is, I guess for me, if an alien species is sufficiently like technologically advanced to travel from like Zeta Reticuli or from these places that are light years and light years and light years away, for me, the problem becomes resource extraction. Why would they need to do that? And wouldn't the expenditure of resources to get here be prohibitive for them to bring it back to their own home planet? Two, it feels like if they need our DNA, they should be able to extract like some DNA from us and then just synthesize it. Like, why the continuous of multiple people? And then, finally, three, if they do really need our resources and that's their motivation, they should have sufficient technology to simply like do a wholesale like takeover of Earth versus this cloak and dagger stuff that to me really just doesn't make any sense.
Well, they're not allowed to just do anything they want down here. They're subject to the will of other powerful alien species. They wouldn't be allowed to do even this much if it weren't for the fact that our government's given them permission. That's huge with the Alien Council, apparently, if they have permission from the local government to do what they're doing. And as far as why they come here and the resources and everything, we're talking about a species that's at least 100,000 years in advance of us, and space travel is cheap to them. They use huge ships, and it's definitely nowhere near prohibitively expensive to come here.
Stephen, do you think they seeded us?
I don't think they've seeded us, but I think that they have genetically modified us at various stages of our development. I think that the Anunnaki may have seeded us.
That could be. Let's go to North Vancouver, Canada. Mike's with us now. Hey, Michael, go ahead.
Hi, George. How you doing?
Good, Mike. Thanks.
And you too, Steve. Good that you're addressing this. I do have a couple of points and a couple of questions that are quick. Yes, they are harming us, but I do agree with you. They follow lines with their abductions. My mother was in the Navy, so and there was a woman on George last Saturday about the Havana attack when she opened her mouth about the COVID when they started investigating and saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" My mother stood up against the polio injections in '61, and she was under attack for that. And I think they had the Havana syndrome in use then because she was getting leg cramps, and I'm getting the same leg cramps, and I told everybody not to take the COVID injections. Oh, and one question for you. Do you think that your headaches were caused by Havana syndrome and not the implants? Can you...
And you've heard of this syndrome, haven't you, Steve?
I'm not familiar with that, but I do think that the headaches are caused by the implants. I think it's a side effect of a brain implant.
Yeah, the Havana syndrome is
if they want.
People in our embassies have been getting sick, and they think they're being bombarded by some kind of microwaving.
Yeah, I suppose it's possible. If Havana syndrome is caused by microwaves, it's possible that it's partly that because these UFOs give off a lot of microwave radiation and X-rays. In fact, they told me at a young age to take a lot of vitamins because we were exposed to a lot of radiation on these abductions.
Gordon, Plant City, Florida. Gordy, go ahead.
Yeah, George and Stephen. I want to run a theory by that I got from my very good friend Kevin Montague, who wrote The Master's Key About Cancer, but he was also a 2-time near-death experiencer, and I would like for you to have him back on. You know, he's struggling right now, but his theory is, and he's visited Jesus twice face-to-face, and Kevin says that there are fallen angels, and he's encountered one of those demons, but he says there's a lot of species of aliens that are neither angels nor demons, and the name of Jesus and fasting and praying might actually help in Stephen's case. I'm not sure if you're Dr. Stephen Colburn. I couldn't find that for sure, but I wanted to run by the theory that, yes, there are fallen angels, but George kind of beat me to it earlier, and you did too. But I wanted to run the theory by that I got from Kevin Montague, who, by the way, should be back on, hint, hint, that there are both fallen angels, good angels, fallen bad aliens, and good aliens. And that there's a whole bunch, probably more aliens, I think, than there are angels. I'm just not sure. But there's actually both of you guys. And my friend in Louisiana, Cornelius, is right. But there's more to it than what he says. And I want to weigh in on that and find out what you think.
Well, a classified government report that was leaked to the press a while back said that the government thought there were 18 different alien species visiting the Earth. And undoubtedly, there's hundreds or thousands more space travel capable species in this galaxy. So that's a lot of aliens.
It sure is. It sure is. And I think there are a mixture of fallen angels and ETs, don't you?
Yeah, certainly.
You don't have a website, Steve, do you?
I do kind of believe that the reptilians may be, some of the reptilians at least, may be controlled by fallen angels.
First-time caller Doug in Tennessee. Take it away, Douglas.
Thanks again, George, for having me on. Steve, it's an honor. My question, well, not really a question, it's more like my theory. Back to the whole NASA not really releasing much information. Now, it's my theory that the government put like these movies and everything and how realistic they are at some points. What are the odds that the government's actually putting some factual pieces to see how the people would respond if they were to come out with information?
That's definitely true in my opinion. I mean, they definitely have had a lot of influence over these movies, and I kind of think after remembering all this that most science fiction is based on abductee reports. I just simply don't think Hollywood is that creative. And shows like Star Trek are pretty close to the truth. I mean, space is a pretty crowded place. There's a lot of aliens out there.
Did Dr. Lear know about all your implants, or did you discover some of them after he passed away?
We discovered them together, so he knew about them.
So you have how many?
I have 4 that I know of that are still in there.
And they're still
there
in.
May still be a piece of the toe implant in my toe. It broke into several pieces when he removed it.
What are the possibilities that they'll still implant you with more?
The probability is pretty high, I guess, but it's not something they do frequently.
Stephen, you don't have a website. Do you give out an email address or anything like that for people who might want to contact you?
Yeah, you can contact me through my work email, Steve at neutronstarnanotech.com. And my cell phone number, if you want to make an appointment to, if you have information for me, if you want to make an appointment to get a scan for alien implants and recent alien contact, is 805-625-2549. Again, that's 805-625-2549.
Super. Steve, thanks for being on the program, and take care of yourself. And we'll be talking about aliens just about all week long here on Coast to Coast AM. The Coast mobile app is now available for download on iPhones and Android devices. You can become an insider directly through this app. This is a great option for our international listeners, and new users will also receive a free 2-week trial.